Good morning, everyone. So welcome to today's panel. We have a lineup of really well-esteemed speakers from top projects. So today we're going to be talking about all things DeFi AI, or however you want to name it, right? DeFi. But we won't just be scratching the surface. We'll be going deep into the questions. So before we kick off with all the Q&A, maybe let's start off with a quick self-introduction, who we are. What project you're focused on, and also what role does your project play in this emerging DeFi AI stack? So I'll maybe just give a very brief introduction about myself as well. You can call me GK. I represent DFG. DFG is a Web3 VC based in Singapore. We're sector agnostic. We have about 1 billion AUM, and we invest in any verticals. So some of our portfolio companies actually Mode, Pudgy Penguins, Peak Network, Lens, and yeah, feel free to reach out if you're looking for fundraising. So, yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Ron. I'm co-founder and CEO of Theoriq. I'll start by saying that poll is a good reason why we much prefer the name AI-Fi, AI-powered finance, rather than any variation of DeFi. But what we've been working on at Theoriq is the intersection of AI and Web3 for 3 years, right? We've long been believers that these are the most transformational technologies of our lifetime, and that bringing them together is going to be incredibly important, right? So we've built a protocol that's really designed to power the agentic economy, to make it easy for agents to collaborate, to establish trust, to communicate at scale, to be able to transact. And we believe that there's a lot of really important challenges I'm sure we'll talk about here today. As a founding team, we bring deep expertise in AI. You know, I did things like sold a previous AI startup to Teradata, and then worked in the CTO office at Google on AI. My co-founders were also worked with me at some of those places. And then we also have deep Web3 expertise, leadership team that includes veterans from Consensus and other top-tier Web3 projects. And we think that combination of bringing, incredibly powerful agents that can sense and act, use tools, and then really take actions on chain, as well as work together in swarms, is going to be definitional. So that's what we're building and we're empowering.
Hi. My name is Iulia Mihailescu. I work for Agoric. You might know us as a layer 1 blockchain, specifically built to write smart contracts in JavaScript and hardened JavaScript. Last year, we were pioneers of on-chain orchestration. Started as at the beginning as a solution to chain abstraction, and then created. The narrative took a life of its own, and we went deep into automation and creating seamless Web3 flows. Today, our mission comes to life through WiMax, which is a DeFi portfolio management and yield optimizer. Where AI comes in this, I think that we see AI as like electricity 300 years ago. It will just be powering and elevating everything that we do. And we start with AI embedded as chatbot, assistant helpers, and just helping to automate certain tasks, and then moving towards more complex orchestration of AIs, agent-to-agent transfers, and more complex things in the future.
Hey everyone, is this on? I'm Amy Boudreau, product marketing manager at 0x, also with a focus on growing verticals, including AI. So we're probably the odd one out on the panel a little bit. We create or enable decentralized trading infrastructure in Web3. We integrate hundreds of liquidity sources, I think 15 plus chains counting, to power very seamless swaps. So a year ago, we saw that a bunch of projects that we're building in the AI space started using our APIs to enable swaps. Projects like ElizaOX, Moxie AI, BankerBot. And so for us, we're agnostic in the sense that we empower and embed swaps in pretty much every vertical within Web3. And we've seen that AI agents have been taking off in terms of use of our APIs. So that's why we're here.
All right, thank you. So maybe just to kick off the first question. So how do you personally define what DeFi AI is, or AI-Fi in Theoriq's case? And what do you think, what specific capabilities does it bring that unlocks what wasn't possible before?
Maybe I'll start, take a stab to say, I think the important thing is having the ability to have AI agents that are increasingly autonomous, take economic actions, right? So to be able to control assets, to be able to interact, to take actions with those assets, like swap is a great example that Amy talked about, but also provide liquidity that Iulia talked about, or actually I guess optimizing yield, right? These are some of the kinds of things that we're seeing really come to the fore, that people are saying, hey, this is a great thing that agents can now do, right? I think there's a range of autonomy, right? I mean, there's a step, maybe in DeFAI and AI-Fi, there's this idea of like, first thing an agent might do is have you in the loop and assist you, right? So propose a transaction, analyze and suggest something. You say, hey, let me go ahead and execute that. In fact, we're kicking off our community beta of our alpha swarm that brings a bunch of agents together using our protocol to make it easy to do liquidity provisioning and soon yield optimization in that mode, where users can say, hey, yeah, I want to go ahead and it's recommending, here's a liquidity position I'll take, it simplifies that complexity, let me act on that. The next stage is more full autonomy, where the agent acts continuously. As the market updates, as changes happen, it can go ahead and take an action automatically. It can rebalance, it can adjust positions, it can get in and out of the market, it can move from one chain and one DEX to another, depending on what you want to do. This pattern, the most common scenario was that you actually have an on-chain vault. We have smart contracts that guardrail and limit what the agent can do, because most of us don't want to rely on an agent to have just unlimited control to do whatever it wants. But instead, with limits, with guardrails, let the agent then go ahead and take action and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move funds to this source of yield or that other one, but within some constraints, right? So we see that's what's happening, and I think it's this journey of increasing autonomy of AI in the space that's where it's exciting. But I think what we're going to see very quickly is, just like in TradFi, the world moved to algorithmic trading very quickly, and most of the actors, most of the transactions in traditional finance are actually done through automated algorithms. I think agents are going to similarly dominate the space, and we'll see agentic transactions dominate in Web3 as well.
Yeah, similar to Ron, I think for me, DeFi is all about moving from manual work to intelligent flows. And we speak to a lot of traders and we speak to a lot of DeFi users, and everybody says that they eat through glass to do what they want, especially when it comes to multiple protocols, multiple chains, multiple vaults. Today, DeFi is extremely basic because of how complex it is. Just the redundancy and the copy pasting and the always switching between spreadsheets, dashboards, Discord flows, pop-up wallets. Everything can be and has to be done seamless for the user and intelligent and execution-wise automated or semi-automated and fast. And so this is where AI comes. It helps with first taking the right decision, proposing different options for the user. The user stays in control. Definitely, we don't want our AI to yet manage our money. But what it can help us do is actually create that layer of programmable capital, that where we actually do with our capital what we want, and we program it to do more than just these basic steps and move to the next one in an automated fashion, producing complex flows for the user in a seamless way, the way we are used to in TradFi, in Web2, and so on.
I think I've been converted to AI-Fi. I'm going to start calling it that now. That's much more seamless.
All right. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, I think in line with what both of you guys said, I think what it empowers right now is automation and simplifying the amount of manual work that people need to do today. BankerBot is an example where just in a normal human-to-human type text message, you can get it to execute a trade or manage something within your crypto assets. But I think what it enables that wasn't previously possible is getting to insights faster. When I think about some of the ways that we empower swap today outside of the AI projects versus, normal swaps in a wallet. There are a lot of projects that are trying to find ways to present information to users in an easier way, in a quicker way, so that they can make smarter decisions when they trade. And I think what AI-Fi enables is being able to help those users get to those pieces of insights faster. And then I think still probably we want the user to make the end decision. Maybe if they're setting guardrails up in the beginning, that is a way that they can make that decision. But it's just about surfacing the information faster and in an easier to digest way without having to go sleuth on chain, manage spreadsheets.
Okay, thank you. So I think DeFi protocols are already live today, and we haven't really seen like a really big wave of adoption in all these DeFi protocols. And what do you think the main issue is here? And are we missing anything that is required to enable DeFi to function as a whole system instead of having so many different siloed tools? And how do we leverage this to onboard the next billion users?
I'm happy to start with this because it's a subject that I wrote about a lot, and I think that it's still a primitive for us in Web3, which is trust. I think that the first thing that we are missing is trust, and it starts with safety and security. We need to definitely move across this image that we have as an industry and reshape our image and get people to trust to see mass adoption into DeFi. But also AI itself needs to get years and years of reliable execution, right? Trust is not something that you do with a marketing campaign. It's definitely again and again delivering and delivering without faults. And so it starts with security and safety, like being bulletproof and some years of testing and showing that it works well. We definitely don't want to redo the hacks and mistakes from the past, but now at a 1000x scale with AI. The second thing that I think it's missing is an orchestration layer, being able to produce this kind of end-to-end experiences seamlessly for the user and help users do everything that they want in a simple flow that it seems for them native and not trunked and chopped off. And the third thing, I think it comes with what Amy was saying about intelligent helpers. We need to show that AI is helping us do the things better before we go to the next steps where we empower AIs to take over our wallet and portfolio. And so I think that, that comes back to trust. Mm-hmm. And we build it step by step with bringing AI into finance, into our lives. That would be my opinion.
I loved everything you said, and I think there's one thing I would add to it. What enables that trust is, and I think it was in what you were saying, it's the value that you're creating for the user, its utility. And I think whether we're talking about AI-Fi or just DeFi in general, if I look at a project or look at any project, any use case, take out all of the words, the technical words, take out everything related to AI, everything related to DeFi or crypto, then look at what it is that you're building. Does that provide some type of utility to the user that creates value? If it doesn't, then I don't think that it's a step towards mass adoption. And I think there are times where, at least I've seen in the couple years I've been in this space, that we get really excited about the tech and about the cool thing that we can do without really thinking about, does this help someone in the mass adoption market that we're trying to reach? And I think part of that is simplifying. It's making it feel seamless. It's putting it more in the back end. It's focusing on the value that you can create and not the tech that enables it.
Those are both great points. I'd say, I think, for DeFi itself, the big value proposition of DeFi is avoiding centralized rent-seeking intermediaries, and they exist in crypto as in TradFi, right? Let's not pretend that centralized exchanges aren't themselves rent-seeking intermediaries, right? So there's a real reason to want to have DeFi. In fact, it is gaining share already. But I think the key point is usability, as Iulia was talking about, is incredibly important to get it going. Now, how do we get AI to be usable, or how do we get DeFi to be usable? I think it is by making AI work well. Now, a big thing that's happening is AI is advancing rapidly, right? So we're just getting to the point where, you know, AI is really able to achieve the kind of automation needed, right? There's a great way of looking at this. A nonprofit, Matter, has done research to say, like, what length of tasks, like how long is a task that a human can do that an AI agent can reliably accomplish? On the high end, you know, for programming tasks that agents are really good at, you're now at state-of-the-art models or over an hour-long task for a human expert that an AI agent can do. But when it gets to general web browsing type agents, it's just it's like a minute, right? So the key thing is, one, that time, the time that those tasks agents can do is doubling roughly every 6 months, right? So we're on a rapid increase, the capability of AI to accomplish things. The other thing is by moving to more specialized agents, you can go from that 1 minute towards that 1 hour time frame. And a lot of tasks in DeFi can really be reliably done in a few minutes, right? So we're just crossing this threshold where specialized agents working together in swarms, like we're doing in Theoriq, can really enable users to accomplish what they want in a reliable way. So that's one. The other thing that Iulia talked about that I think is incredibly important is trust. But a lot of people have misunderstood and think that if I can verify the compute of an AI agent, that I could trust it. But that's far from what it takes to trust an agent, right? You can still have hallucinations if you accurately compute an open source model. If your data is garbage, it doesn't matter. If it's outdated, if it's misleading, you can make bad decisions, right? So our view is that agents need to have a reputation system. They need to have stakes, so if they're malicious, they can be slashed, but they also need a reputation system so you can decide, hey, this agent is repeatedly producing good outcomes. You can't verify the compute of an agent to know that it's going to have good outcomes. You have to look at its track record and have independent evaluations. So we think that's also going to be incredibly important so you can rely on what agents are really going to do a good job, and I can trust them to manage money for me.
Okay, thank you. Those are all really good points. And I think the next question is that, you know, we saw an explosion in agents, you know, end of last year, especially more so on entertainment agents. What kind of agents do you think bring the most value long term? I think most of us here, a lot of us believe in like trading agents, right? Facilitating trades, swaps, optimization. But do you think these kind of agents, does tokenization of these agents make sense as well?
I can start. I'm willing to have my mind changed, but I would say that I don't know that you need an agent to be tokenized for it to be successful. I think it depends on the situation. Maybe if there's some sort of community ownership or profit sharing, maybe it makes sense to tokenize it. But I think in general, I don't know that it needs to be. But I would also be interested to hear what our other panelists think there. I think I get a little hesitant and I worry when we start talking about tokenizing because I think we can get into a mode of tokenizing things for the sake of tokenizing things.
I agree with you. I think that at the same time, I think that agent adoption will start this time top down from the power users. And I see DeFi power users hungry for this kind of radically digital, radical solutions. And I think that they will look into AI agents for the same attributes that they look into any DeFi project, like incentive-based system that can only come through tokenization, the ability to trade on them. Where I completely agree with you is that I am afraid that will take us very quickly into another era of pump that fun into shitcoins. You know, we'll produce tokenized agents just for the sake of the speculative gain. Mm-hmm. And like you said, we'll put utility on the side, and at the end it will be just another thing where we navigate hype, and in 6 months the bubble bursts. Mm-hmm. So I think that for our own industry's sake, to gain trust, I think that we should leave that behind for a few years until AI agents really prove their utility and gain the trust needed, the reputation, and then introduce more complex attributes to them, like incentivized systems and so on, and tokenization.
I mean, I definitely think it's good to have tokenized agents because I think one of the really powerful things in Web3 is capital formation, the ability to raise capital to fund good projects. I think the problem with meme coins is there's absolutely no utility. You're raising money for what is clearly a speculative exercise, at best a collectible, right? So the idea that you can now turn it towards raising capital for something where there's a real business is valuable, right? And I think there's been useful work. Several of the leading projects like Virtuals and Arc have put forward launch platforms to be able to launch agents with utility and to raise capital for that. I think there needs to be some tweaks, right? Things like a pure fair launch may not preserve actually enough capital for the agent, and too much of the value gets sniped away by early participants who can buy in. But the idea of raising capital for agents and then having good metrics to say they're working well, I think is really powerful, and it's kind of a superpower in Web3. I think the best thing that can happen, and we see happening, is the mindset is shifted, right? I think Agent Fall last fall was indeed all about sort of truth terminal and derivatives of that, personality agents, let's say, and people have realized that maybe meme coins and personalities is not what we should be investing in, but real businesses, right? So as long as we are actually, as a community, valuing real businesses and assessing, is this an actual quality agent that's providing real utility, I think will go well. So it's sort of on us as a community to invest in things that are really worth investing in. The other thing I'd say to the other part of your question is, trading is certainly a popular activity, but we think that trying to identify the next 100x trade is quite a difficult task that takes good humans hours or days, typically, to make a good decision. So we actually believe that there's more value, and where we've been focusing is things like optimizing liquidity positions, optimizing yield, right, which are also important AI-fi use cases, and those are the ones we're most excited about and focusing on as we build out Alpha Swarm as a flagship collaboration of AI-fi agents.
All right, really good points. I kind of like the discourse. Yep, please go ahead.
If you don't mind, just to stay a bit more on this, I have a question for Ron, and I've been thinking about this a lot on tokenizing agents, and I think that my fear and my question for you is, how do I work with an agent that has no mass reputation? It's not like OpenAI or something where millions have used it, and we know also the downfalls or the risks. How do I work with an agent where I fear that speculation or just changing ownership through different, the market is still very concentrated, right? And when you buy into a token, I think that I would be worried about who's the owners behind it and how decentralized it can be and so on. How do you see this idea that with a tokenized agent you go more into the, people would see the speculation behind it and would not trust the end result?
I don't think tokenization is, whether it's tokenized or not, is a reason to trust an agent, right? I mean, the first thing is going to be obviously something about the reputation of the team behind it, the philosophy, like what's the purpose for being? If it is open source, you can look at the code and assess that. I think increasingly we're going to have automated evaluations of agents. I think it's going to be a lot easier to trust an agent if it's got stake. So you put stake on the agent has to stake. So if it does something malicious, it gets slashed. But like a really common business model in agents is to have token gating. In order to use the agent, you need to hold some of its token, right? And that aligns incentives. It also gives people a reason to be like, hey, if I take the time to do diligence and say this is a great agent, I want to be able to invest in it early, and then I'll have access to it and be able to benefit from it as a source of utility. So I think those are factors. I think the more we can have automated systems to assess the reputation of agents, the better. But it's very much like, how do you have confidence in any Web3 project, right? I mean, you have to ultimately assess the people, what they're saying, what they're doing, right? And eventually the track record comes to dominate, right?
Yeah. Hence my point about some time that needs to pass to have that track record.
I actually have a question for both of you guys on this one too. I agree with all your points there, but I think thinking back to an earlier question about what is in the way between where we are now and mass adoption, I feel like there's still a lot of knowledge gating and knowledge learning that needs to happen for people to participate. So even with tokens, meme coins, or any token you want to invest in, one of our team members has been focused on liquidity or token pages and liquidity scores, information about tokens in Matcha, which is a DEX aggregator that 0x built. And we're doing that as a way to try to put more information in the user's hands without requiring them to become deep experts. So I'm curious if you see a path for, I don't know exactly what it is, but how does someone who isn't an expert in AI evaluate whether or not these projects are legitimate, or how do they figure out whether or not this is something they should invest in or not if they're not a deep expert? And so I think that's kind of where I always hesitate with the financialization of these projects, whether it's in AI or early DeFi, because I think it puts a lot of people at risk who want to be involved and maybe don't have the expertise to be able to evaluate whether or not this is a worthwhile investment.
I mean, I guess I'd say, I think whether you invest in a token or you trust an agent to take financial actions on your behalf, you need to do your diligence and homework, right? Like, if I'm in TradFi, similarly, whether I invest in a bank or I rely on them to manage money for me, I really want to have some confidence that it's going to be done well, right? So, I mean, I think, how do most people do it? I mean, most people do rely on independent experts, early adopters doing work, influencers who are thoughtful, digging in, and then, writing reports. And, the great thing, though, I would say about the Web3 ecosystem is, it gives people incentive to go early and figure out stuff and say, hey, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to jump in early. You can make the case, but then you also have the ability to bet against something and make the case against it, right? So I think market discovery is an effective technique, right? And I think it's something that benefits the Web3 ecosystem.
And in this regard, I'm giving it all to AI. We have a saying my engineers come with, have an AI validate your AI. But I think that, yeah, with the explosion of AIs, what we got is actually, with the natural language AIs, we got actually democratization of access to knowledge. And this is where I like to say that for me, the first role that AI agents should play in DeFi is assistant helpers. Just the fact that they can explain to you what's happening behind the rail without making you an expert, but explain to you at the level where you are, and then the transparency that they can bring. I've seen our AI bot just like showing me where my transaction is on the transfer flow, like step by step, and it actually gave me confidence. I mean, I'm sure, and just like with a human being, I think you can have at the end also experts that give you the wrong advice, and you would end up trusting them just because they are called experts or the reputation, the name they have. But yeah, I think that if you have this kind of like, maybe this is like a natural behavior that we need to start adopting, just like always check what AI gives you with another AI. That's great.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. I think we've talked a lot about trust, reputation, and also confidence, but we're all for the idea about autonomy of agents in the long term, right? Do you think it's possible in the future whereby an agent might potentially find a potential exploit or even a bug that is beneficial for the user, but obviously is harmful for a protocol, right? How should we design such agents to act, and do you think this is even possible in the future?
I mean, there's already good evidence of this. Like Don Song's group at UC Berkeley recently published benchmark or test results that showed not only were they able to use state-of-the-art LLMs to discover like 20% of known past security bugs in open source, but they also found 15 zero days that had never been discovered before. Not all the models discovered everything, but all the state-of-the-art models were able to discover at least some of them, right? So we're already at the point where AI agents can discover novel exploits in systems, right? So it also suggests that the evals that the big labs are doing around their cyber capabilities, maybe they're not trying as hard as they should because they haven't said they're at a fairly advanced capability, but they're clearly there, right? So it's a great question, and I think the thing is, this sort of goes back to what do we as a community actually believe? Well, we already have seen multiple cases where people exploited bugs in smart contracts to steal money, and they've been held legally liable for theft and or fraud, right? So our expectation is exploiting bugs is not okay. It's not part of the rules of the game. It's actually an exploit, right? And so I think we should be moving more towards a governance system where we punish agents for exploits in the same way that, like, another thing that's an attack that I think is going to be very important to anticipate and get in front of is manipulation through misinformation, right? Which is another popular technique for exploiting others, right? So I think we have to build a robust ecosystem where exploiting bugs in smart contracts and manipulation through other techniques does not pay, right? I don't think we want to try to get into a system where anything goes, and agents that are your personal criminal are going to be very popular. I think that's a terrible world to be in, and so the onus is on us to build governance as a community to punish agents that act that way, to exclude them, and to not do business with them.
Absolutely. And I think that there are two solutions to this. I'm immediately thinking that an AI agent shouldn't be treated differently than a wealth manager. They have a fiduciary responsibility, they have to respect compliance and so on. So on one hand, there has to be a compliance and governance guardrail set up, and it will take years, right, to get there and to understand the full possibilities of misbehavior from AI agents, and then come back with a response from the state. So I think that the first line of attack is actually setting up those guardrails that you spoke about. I think that we have to have like a layer of ethical rules inside, coded inside the AI agents, and they need to act just like the wealth managers that we have in the human life, and make sure that they are responsible and they respect the right behavior for us. And us as infrastructure suppliers, we have to build that in from the beginning.
I wish you guys luck on that one.
The other thing Iulia's comment reminds me of is we also have to watch for users jailbreaking agents, right? Like, even if the agent is trying to have those guardrails and behave well, we also have to watch for users that work around those defenses, right? It's fairly easy to jailbreak today's models, right, and get them to do things that the person hosting the model didn't intend, right? So we also have to watch for if I can tell the agent, hey, this is a simulation, let's go ahead and find some smart contract vulnerabilities to maximize profit, and it does that, that's still not okay, right? So, I think we also need to have incentives to not make it easy to work around and exploit and have individual users act badly, even if the agent is trying to, is sort of nominally designed to behave well.
Oh, here's an idea, AI cops to validate other AIs and keep them honest.
Yeah, I mean, I do think you need to have evaluators looking to say, are other agents behaving well, and security, right? We need defense in depth. We also need sort of at the core to have enough alignment that we actually can have some confidence the AI is doing what's intended, which, we really don't have today.
Yeah, and interestingly, on the idea of jailbreaking, Fraser AI, they used to have this idea, right, where you kind of challenge the AI to, there's a prize pool, you have to participate and you have to pay, and if you manage to jailbreak the AI, then you get the entire prize pool. And how you jailbreak it is actually how the developers use it to strengthen the model to prevent jailbreaking in the future. So I think these are all really good points. We're coming to the end of the panel, and maybe just for a final question, how do you envision DeFi to look like in the DeFi AI to look like in the next 5 to 10 years? And will DeFi AI replace front ends, or will they empower them?
I'm happy to start. So we are building an end user product right now, DeFi based portfolio manager and yield optimizer that puts UI forefront. And I think that the way we are looking at creating it is, from the beginning, is called seamless orchestration, where AI comes and elevates the experience for the user. What we see today is that DeFi is still just a path of complexities and fragmented experiences, fragmented liquidity. And we see AI and orchestration helping us create that integrated end-to-end user flow where a user comes in and easily deploys funds, bridges across chains, protocols, vaults, takes a position on a new protocol, withdraws all seamlessly, all in with one single signature. And AI comes and gives you the options, presents you the options you have based on a certain risk-adjusted strategy, tells you where to find the best yield based on your profile, and always brings you the market data, the information about yield, and respects the user's goals in order to find you achieve your strategy.
I think that's in line with what we're seeing on our side in terms of customers and projects and how they're using AI and swap. I don't know that it's replace or empower. I think maybe integrated is the right way to think about it. Steps that can benefit from automation, whether it's rebalancing or executing a trade, or steps that require some type of analysis. I think all of those can benefit from leveraging AI. So I see it really more as fully integrated into how apps are built, how they are structured in terms of the UX. So I don't know that it's necessarily fully replaced, but I think it will be integrated.
I guess I'd say that within 2 years, we're going to see the vast majority of DeFi transactions are conducted by agents. You're going to have much more automation, that much more people are going to have agents functioning fully autonomously. But because you get so much more power out of specialized agents than universal agents that try to do everything, I think what we're going to see is swarms of agents working together that are really driving a lot of the value, right? So we believe that even in 2 years, you're going to have swarms of agents, which is why, of course, we're building our alpha protocol to make it easy for agents to securely manage capital, message, and establish reputation, as we've been talking about. 5 years from now, I think there's big questions about whether AI progress will level off or whether we'll have AGI or ASI. So 5 years is hard to make predictions, but in 2 years, I think we're going to see a lot of autonomy, and AI-fi will dominate over traditional forms of DeFi.
And Ron, what you said, I completely agree with you that the majority, in terms of volumes, the volumes will be dominated by AI agent-driven flows. What about in terms of people using agents? So concentration of basically transactions within a few people that have learned how to do it well and use theory.
I mean, I think that you're going to see a majority of people will be using AI in their DeFi transactions. There'll be a mix of people. Like I would bet most people rely on a fair bit of autonomy because it works so well. And in 2 years, people are going to have agents managing all kinds of things in their lives in an automated way, right? So I think that doing it in DeFi will also be part of this transition that in our lives we're using AI for so much more.
Yeah, I think that one critical factor for me is user control. Everything that we've discussed we've done a lot of research with power users of DeFi is that they did not equate simplicity or seamless experiences with lack of control. They want to maintain that control. And so the way I would define the AI involvement in DeFi is getting to that place where we see on-chain, semi-automated orchestration. So while the user maintains control and the AI is used specifically and targeted for certain users, for certain actions that it does so well.
Yep. Okay. Thank you so much to our speakers for your wonderful insights. We've now come to the end of our panel. Please give our speakers a round of applause, please.